With each day, a new beginning, another opportunity to become all you are created to be. There is a way. And now our host, the Reverend Dale Batesole, invites you to join him in making this the best day of your life.
Hello, friends. Rejection is the state of refusing to accept or consider someone or something. Well, our topic today is centered on why we reject and how we can get over the feeling of rejection. To discuss this with us is our guest, Dr. Gregory Penn, minister of Unity of Escondido in Escondido, California. Welcome back, Gregory.
I'm honored to be here, as usual, and I love being with you.
Good. And neither one of us feel rejection right now.
No. No, but we felt it.
We have.
Yeah.
That's for certain. Greg, why do we as a race reject?
We reject often because in our rejection, we think we will find self-satisfaction or acceptance of ourselves. At times, we reject to make ourselves feel better about who and what we are. For instance, if I reject someone, usually it makes me feel as though I'm in a superior position. If I reject this individual, I'm saying, in essence, you're not as good as me. And everyone has this innate wanting, shall I say, to be good, to work with goodness. And sometimes, because we have not changed the inside of the cup, our consciousness and our thoughts, our attitudes, our basic feeling nature, what we try to do is we use behaviorism as a way to make ourselves feel good about ourselves. In other words, I can do many good things, but if I'm not good on the inside, no one will know. As Jesus said, you clean the outside of the cup, but you leave the inside of the cup full of wickedness. And we have lived that way for so long that rejection now becomes a way of me making myself feel better about me.
Well, then what are the usual rejections to rejection?
People reject us basically, I think, for two reasons. One, they don't approve of what we're doing. Okay, they don't like what we're doing. And that may be consciously on our part. We may be doing things that are eliminating us from the approval of other people or the love of other people, which we should not be concerned about. Or number two, they reject us because we reflect them. When a person becomes true, what I mean by true is pure inside. True. They mirror back to those individuals who come close to them the image of their likeness. And oftentimes, this is very uncomfortable. For example, Jesus was a perfect example of that. To come near this man, and I don't want to get into the personality and sound like I'm adorating his personality, but because of the purity of his consciousness, the purity and the level of his consciousness, no one could come near him without feeling the fire. And many people could not understand where he was coming from. The love was so different. And he would always mirror back to any of us. If you came at him with hostility, he would mirror back your hostility. He would not be hostile himself. And that caused rejection. And as you talked about, we'll talk about it later, how he was even rejected. Goodness is basically rejected by the majority of people in the world. And I know that's a very broad statement to make that a lot of people would say that's not true. But if you look at the great teachers we've had, and let's just use Jesus, we rejected him. And I think it's interesting to think that we wouldn't do it again if we had the opportunity. Right and true are not always popular. And a lot of rejection comes from that. And also a lot of rejection comes because consciously or unconsciously, we do things that hurt other people. And that is not the important thing. The key to rejection is interesting because I don't think any of us want to reject, but we do out of a defense mechanism. So we will feel good about ourselves. And when I'm trying to make myself feel good about me, Dale, at the expense of you, even though I may appear to be right and just, and everybody around me say, yes, Greg, you have the right to say that and to feel that, I am wrong. I am wrong.
All right. Then, Greg, should we expect rejection?
All the time. And the thing about rejection is this. First of all, rejection hurts us because we have a low self-image. Let me go back a minute here.
Right.
The thing that hurts us the most is not to be approved by others. There is nothing that bothers people more than to think they don't have the approval of the majority of people that are in their lives. That upsets us. And we think, what is wrong with me? What you should ask in yourself is, what is it about me that would create this situation?
Not right or wrong.
Not right or wrong.
Okay.
You're right, Dale.
What is there about me?
Right. It could be that there's nothing wrong with you. You may be asking yourself, what is so right about me that is causing them? Because the moment Jesus made that transformation in himself, even his mother didn't even know him. He rejected her at the wedding feast. He rejected her in the temple. She didn't even know who he was. He had changed personality so. And that, of course, is a spiritual transformation. And I'm not saying that any of us may be rejected for that currently. But what I'm saying is this. If the approval of others is more important to you than the acceptance of yourself, you're going to find rejection all the time. You cannot please all of the people. You may please Dale, but not Greg. You may please Mary, but not Joe. So you can expect rejection anytime you're trying to appease other people because they mean more to you than you mean to you. I have come to an early conclusion in my life. It is not important who loves me. It is not important who hates me. The only thing is important is, do I understand me? Can I love me? And how much compassion can I show through me? And forgiveness. It doesn't matter. Rejection is always going to be with you in this world. Always going to be there. You can't get away from it. The object is to understand, why do I have feelings of rejection and why does it hurt me? And if it hurts us, and I will make another broad spiritual statement, anything that hurts you is nothing that hurts you personally. It hurts your ego. And if you ever take rejection personally, you've made a big mistake. If you ever take acceptance personally, you've made another big mistake, because what you're doing is attaching yourself to desire. Let me give you a kind of a spiritual teaching that works from an idea of Zen. If a person gravitates towards pleasure, they will find pain. If a person gravitates towards pleasure, they will also find suffering, because pleasure and suffering are the same coin, just the different sides of it. Do you understand?
Yes,
As thought and feeling are the same coin, just the opposite sides. The object is to seek no pleasure, no pain, and in being solitude, in being yourself, your true self, your God self, your loving self, you find an even keel. This is why Jesus could stand before Pilate and he could say all the things that he said to Jesus, provoking him, antagonizing him, challenging, rejecting him, and there was a peace in him. He said, you say this of me. I didn't say it. You see that peace? That doesn't come. Ego cannot develop that. Vanity cannot develop that. Peace develops that. He didn't care what his disciples thought of him. In fact, he knew what they were going to do. Reject him, deny him. He didn't care about the people around him. He only cared about, I must keep the balance, the peace, the poise, the love, the surrender, the stillness.
This is the peace that we sometimes describe as peace beyond human understanding.
Exactly. Exactly. Right on there. Because you see, there's no logic and there's no reason to have that peace. How can you find peace in turmoil or in injustice?
Logically.
Impossible. So you have to transcend that, and your mind cannot do that. No one's mind can do that. Only your heart. And this is why the mind must be dropped and the heart must come to play its justice in our life, because it will show justice.
Greg, is rejection then a quote, sign, close quote, of something?
Yes, it's a sign of something in me. And when I find rejection in my life, someone that I care about, a rejection, maybe I had aspirations for something to occur, did not occur, that is a form of rejection. You might think that life is rejecting you or God's rejecting you or whatever. It's a sign. And you have to look at the sign impersonally. The sign doesn't mean you're right or wrong, you're good, you're bad. It means often you need, or you're going in this direction, and that way or that thing that you expected is not appropriate as you're going in this direction. Okay?
Mhm.
Sometimes our disappointment can be a sign of great success. It's saying to us, don't go that route, or go that route and it will lead you to greater good. How many times have I looked at my life and thought I was going in the direction that would bring me the fruits of my labor, only to find out I was not? Okay? It brought me other fruits that were more appropriate for me than the fruits I wanted for myself.
I think most of us have experienced this in some degree.
That's a rejection, is it not? We look and we say, I failed,
Mm-hmm.
or life has rejected me. No,
No.
it's saying to you, go your pathway and eat your fruit. Go your way. Don't expect Dale's fruit to be Greg's fruit, or Greg's fruit to be Dale's fruit. Enjoy your own, but understand where it came from. Where are the seeds of the tree coming from? And if they're bitter seeds and they're bitter fruit, then understand, instead of saying, life did this to me, they did this to me, stop and ask yourself, what seeds have I been living from in my soul? Have I been hostile? Have I been angry? Have I rejected other people? You know, we always get what we are. And those who are most rejected are also those who reject the most, I find out. I have found that in my own life. I don't reject anyone. I just try to let people be where they are. But I do call a spade a spade. I believe in that. Otherwise, I will be lying to myself. And if I see myself doing something and someone says, gee, Greg, you're going in that direction, I appreciate it, both consciously and unconsciously, if I know what I'm doing or not know. I think every one of us should be honest if we really care about each other. That doesn't lead to truth. A lot of people don't really like that. But I always give people 3 chances. 1, I'll ignore you when you say something. 2, I'll listen. And 3, I'll warn you next time you said, I'll be honest with you. No one usually gets past 3. Very few.
All right. Now then, can we refuse to be rejected?
No.
No.
How can you refuse it? You can in yourself say, I will not resist being rejected. But I can't refuse it. A lot of people fight rejection. They say, you will not reject me. I will. And then they play politics to get what they want. And then they think they've got what they want when they sacrifice themselves. The object in life, Dale, with everything is don't resist the flow. If you're going in a direction and you think that over there in the horizon is what you want, and you're not getting any closer to it, it's time for you to reevaluate where you're headed. And really, is that appropriate for you? Is that something you really want? No one gets any closer to the horizon, do they?
It's always out there.
Every step you take, you're just as far away as you ever were. Mm-hmm. And that's the way most of us are with rejection. We try to have everybody love us, and we try to do everything we can to have them love us, and you can't.
It's like flying and trying to fly into the horizon. There's no way.
There's no way.
No. You keep your eye on the horizon to keep your altitude
right
level properly, but you never, ever
get close.
But it's a guide. It's a goal. It's a sign.
You must look inside yourself and say, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. Is this a sign? Is this rejection? Don't refuse it. Ask yourself, well, maybe this isn't the way I need to go. Just think if Betty Crocker wanted to be a cement maker. And she's a cook, and she went out and tried to be a cement maker and then failed there. And when her leading was, I meet more people who say to me, I don't know what to do for a living. And they're all very talented, and they have these multi-talented personalities. And the interesting thing is they can't choose which one. And they always do the one that they fail in because they're afraid to do the thing they do the best. And they think life is rejecting them. And it's not. It's just saying, come this way. Come this way. These doors are closing. These doors are yours. Walk through these doors. And that's very important. Don't seek what other people want you to be. Be yourself.
Time to pause here for a moment. Then we're coming right back. You mentioned that Jesus was rejected. Well, he even said this of himself. And yes. I want to, if I may, quote this accurately. The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the elders.
Yes.
Share your thoughts with us about this.
Why would anybody, you would think, being so loving and so compassionate, be rejected? Jesus stood for the truth. And I'm just going to bring this down into a very common level that we can all relate to. His work, his life was the life, the way, the walk, the path. And it was so in direct opposition to what was thought of as correct, as right, as proper, as dignified. He could not help but be rejected. And notice he says of the elders. Yes. We all have elders in our society. Ministers become elders. We hear them politically talking. We have certain people in government who are our elders. And what he is saying is, everything that you have done has been wrong. I stand for the light and the truth, and I stand so bluntly for it that you will reject me because my ways could never be your way. Do you remember when he was going up to the Feast of the Tabernacles and the disciples invited him? He said, it's not my time yet. The world cannot hate you, but me it will always hate because I testify of it. In other words, I tell you what the world is and how you guys have built your lives, and you hate me for it. What is real true is not real popular. And I know that the American public and all of us like to think, oh, no, we're really one nation under God, indivisible. No, we are very, very, and we have to take some insight to ourselves about this rejection idea. I remember years ago, and it was in the 60s when we had the Peace Corps.
Yes.
And we thought that we were being so loving by going into these remote jungles and everything and converting all of them to our American ways. Can't you see a Disneyland in Africa? And this is what their vision was, to make roads and have hot dog stands. And we found out we just really couldn't convert them. And you know why? We had no right to even think that. That's our ego again, thinking that our lifestyle should be imposed upon other people's lifestyle. We didn't make it. And I remember people feeling very rejected by these lower countries, as they thought, primitive countries, and they didn't know what was good for them. Isn't that interesting? And yet their lifestyle was good for them, as ours is good for us. It's not a matter of what's better or worse. It's a matter of what's appropriate. Jesus was appropriate for himself. He was a light to shine upon all men and say, this is the way. But we reject that. We reject that because it would mean, Dale, such drastic change in us. A person is never punished for what they do, and a person is never rewarded for what they do. We are punished or rewarded for what we are. Remember that. And I hope our viewers remember that. You and I can do things that are wrong, but if our hearts were not in it in the motive of doing injustice or malice, we are instantly forgiven the moment we awaken to our wrongdoing. We can also do what is right, but with an impure motive. And when that occurs, we will be rejected, no matter how many right things we do.
How do we overcome rejection?
We need to take a look at it. I have 3 steps I'd like to share with our audience. They're little brief steps about rejection. And the first one that we're going to put on the screen is, don't resist any rejection. Now, that's the first thing.
Wow.
Okay, and by what I mean by that is simply this. Don't be defensive. Look at the rejection and ask yourself, if you come to a fork in the road, you've been walking this road all the way, and now you come to a fork, you don't look at it as a rejection, do you?
No.
Of the road?
No.
It's not it's just that you can go to the right or you can go to the left. Stop and ask yourself, which way do I choose to go? I'm not going to resist the fork in the road. I am going to take either this road or this road. Be observant. See where you are in yourself, not where other people are telling you to go, but stop. Is this appropriate for me? Get still. Be quiet. Am I going in the direction that I feel led to go in?
Comfortable with.
Maybe even uncomfortable with.
Could be.
Maybe because it would be such a drastic change, and I need to make that change. You know, Dale, if I only did what I felt comfortable doing, I wouldn't do anything.
Oh, I can't believe that.
Oh, yeah, I could. Yeah, I'd like to sit under a palm tree and let the coconuts fall on my head and just relax all day. You know, understand what I mean?
Yes,
I mean, my basic human nature would like to do that. And there have been many times I've had the opportunity of getting angry. That would have felt very natural. Or rejecting people. That would be very natural. I have to see where the road leads. And that leads us to the second concept that we need to look at. And the second one is, look at the rejection non-critically, okay, through some observation. Don't look at the rejection as, this is a bad thing that has happened to me, but look at it non-critically and ask yourself, what is the whole picture here? This whole rejection came from me. What am I setting up for myself? What am I doing? How am I handling this? Let's role play. You reject me. And I think to myself, what did I do to Dale to cause the rejection? Maybe it's not what I did to Dale as much as what I did to myself. And maybe Dale got some impressions about me that I'm feeling about myself. If I'm not at odds with myself, If I'm not at peace with myself, that's going to ooze out in the essence of me. And you're going to pick it up, and consciously or unconsciously, and you're going to mirror back to me, not your feelings about me, but my own feelings about me. So you're not really rejecting me. You're just saying, in essence, this is how you're feeling about yourself. You're alienating yourself from me. See the whole picture. Quietly and lovingly see the whole picture. That's a hard one to do.
It certainly is, Greg.
But it has to be done. Otherwise, we spend our whole life in bitterness. And the third one, be humble. This is the hardest one. I spent all summer being humble. Be humble and never retaliate when someone or something rejects you. Work in compassion and forgiveness. If people reject you because they don't understand you, forgive them. If they reject you because they do understand you, what do you have to forgive? You are you. Don't, you are you. Be forgiving. Be tolerant. Be humble. When people reject me, I used to fight and I used to stand up and say, how can you reject me? I'm a person just like, and I've dropped all that. Reject me? Fine. I know now, I'm beginning to know who I am. It isn't important for me to know that you know that or anyone else know that. All that's important is I'm aware of who I am. I know my faults and I know my strengths. And I'm seeking to heal the faults and understand the strengths more. And therefore, I cannot be angry at you. Buddha said something that I love very much. It was very meaningful to this little soul. He said, he quotes, they've beat me, they've robbed me, they threw me down. Live with such thoughts and you live in hate. He beat me, he robbed me, he threw me down. Live with such thoughts and you live in hate. Reject such thoughts and you live in love. Love is the only thing that dispels hate. And knowing this, how can you quarrel? I can't quarrel with that. Someday I'm going to die. I'm going to leave this body, Dale. I do not want to think that I lived my life in rejection, that I set up perimeters around my life and said, you are the good guys and you are the bad guys. I want to be at peace with myself. And I want to slip out of this body very comfortably in the sense of that peace, of knowing who I was and not rejecting anyone.
When you arrive at this point, you have found yourself. So we need to find ourselves.
Yes, and never take rejection personally. Never. Because it's really not a personal thing. And if it's personal, it's hit your ego, and that should be a sign. Understand, you're not going to please everybody. The object is know thyself, as Socrates says. Know thyself. And in knowing that, how can you be rejected?
And with forgiveness, we need to combine compassion.
Yes. Forgiveness and compassion go hand in hand. I can't forgive you if I have no compassion. Compassion is the ability to see where another person is coming from and to understand that and not to put them down for or to make them feel bad about it. Compassion is the ability to see where another person is and then the inward awareness not to let that bother you, not to look at that as a rejection or a fault in that person, but to say that is as much a part of you as it is me. And you know what? I found that everybody's faults that I could see were my own. The sliver that was in your eye was the log that was in my own. I find it very hard now to look at people and say, you're worse than me, I'm better than you, or you're better than me, and I'm not as good as you, because I can see every one of us has that log in their eye. So I only afford forgiveness. And now I've learned also with that to be quiet. And I think we're done.
Thanks so much for coming.
My honor, as usual.
Friends, we have had with us today Dr. Gregory Penn, Minister of Unity of Escondido in Escondido, California. Will you affirm this with Dr. Penn and with me? There is no rejection in God. God loves me. I'll repeat that. There is no rejection in God. God loves me. If by any chance you're feeling rejected in any way at this moment, or sometime in the future if you feel or sense rejection, will you remember this affirmation? There is no rejection in God. God loves me. Make yourself totally at one with God, with the presence of God within you, with the love of God within you. Feel free. Be yourself. Release all feelings of rejection. There is no rejection in God. God loves you. Thanks so much for being with us. Time to join us for our next program, will you please?